Hello, everybody. My name is Jack Neary. I'm with my fellow short range Hall of Fame Benchrest members, Harley Baker and Jeff Summers. Um, Harley is not only a member of the short range Benchrest Hall of Fame, but a world record holder, world team member. And also, we're joined with our good friend Jeff Summers. Jeff is not just in the Hall of Fame, Benchrest Hall of Fame, but Jeff has also won the Super Shoot a total of 4 times, which is a pretty rare feat. I don't know if anyone's won the Super Shoot that many times, but I'm very fortunate that these are good friends of mine, and we've got a pool of knowledge. And what our goal is to share it with everybody, both new shooters to get you started in short range bench rest, as well as seasoned veterans who are maybe looking to pick up some new skills. So between the three of us, we want to kind of share what's been proven successful for us. This is our third episode, many more to come. And tonight, what we're going to talk about is common mistakes both new shooters and experienced bench rest shooters might make. So, to try to help you get to success a little bit quicker, I'm going to kick things off with kind of a list that I've got that ask Harley and Jeff for any feedback and stuff. So, let's get going. Um, First and foremost, you've got your bench rest rifle, maybe a new barrel, hopefully. And one of the things that's so common is we see a lot of not just new shooters, but older shooters, experienced shooters. They don't have a logbook to record the number of rounds they're putting on that barrel. But more importantly, is load data of what is the seating depth that they've tried, what date, how many rounds were on the barrel when they tried it, what seating depth really worked. And also noting what condition that seating depth, if it was the rifle was shooting well, was it a right to left, left to right, headwind, tailwind? Was there a lot of wind, or were the winds pretty benign? So the tune of your rifle, which we'll get into, in a follow-up video, is so dependent upon what that condition's doing, because your powder is really dependent upon that wind, and you've got to match wind to powder. More wind, a little bit more powder. So a logbook is really a absolutely necessary thing to have. Also, having just an inexpensive kitchen timer on your bench. So many people today are relying on the range master and range announcements, but the problem with that is that your hearing protection and where you are at the range, if you're down at like 58 and your hearing is not so great, as a lot of us have lost hearing over the years, it's a real problem that you may hear or may not hear all the range commands. And why put that at chance and take a risk that you may lose valuable information as far as how much time you have left? The other thing that I find, and Jeff and Harley, I'll ask you, but when we start the match, and we have generally 7 minutes in either the sport or light varmint or heavy varmint classes, you can kind of time how long that windy condition or general condition is hanging there. And I'll know if I've, sat there for 2.5 minutes and I've not really seen a condition that looks like it's favorable to start my group. I know that I've got to make sure I get my group started as soon as possible, because if I do need to pick through that given match I'm on, it's going to be a problem that I don't want to back myself in a corner where I need to put 4 shots and I'm down to less than a minute. And what do you guys think about having a kitchen timer on the bench and such?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think you watch conditions as the match is going on, and you get a feel for what's happening around you. And after a while, you start putting that in your library, and you know when to start. There's just no way that you could see where you've got 30 seconds of just a let up that you're going to shoot.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. If not, and you're watching this timer, and really 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, there's just no way that you could sit there and count off that many seconds without a timer. You need that timer just as a solid reference. When I look at it, I go, okay, I've got 4 minutes left. I'm
Right.
okay. But at 3 minutes and then at 2 minutes, I have to make a decision.
Right. And if I can interject too, occasionally you may find a range that has a problem with their timer. And a lot of times they're quoting, you have 3 minutes left when it's four, 4.5. So you can at least correct the range master in the event that he or she is having a problem with their clock that they're using to run the match. Jeff, anything you want to share on that?
Yes, exactly. You really do need a timer. I had mine had quit working. I hadn't had one in a while. I keep forgetting to get it. So up at Camillus, for a good example, the conditions up there, they wouldn't come around a lot at the same time. And I'm looking around. I'm trying to look at the next guy next to me. Look at their timer, see what time it is, and all that. You feel rushed. And like you said, the commands. Yes, you can listen to that, but you need a timer. I just ordered. I got a new timer now. So
Oh, good. Good. I
yeah,
was
you
going to.
do. You really need one of those so you can keep up with things. No, so you won't be, like you guys said, you don't want to be down to the 30-second thing and oh crap. So here we go.
Good. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. The other thing that I think we've all seen people with, and it's not something that's a huge problem, but a lot of times you hear people, oh my gosh, I shot the whole ag or the whole day today with the wrong shims in my bullet seeder. I would strongly suggest whatever bullet seeder you're going to use or purchase, get something that's got some type of a micrometer top that you can write the number down from the micrometer setting in your logbook. That way, the day before on maybe Friday, if you're practicing and you're trying different seating depths, you can see what number it should be on and it's in your logbook. So many times with shims, the shims you can't count unless you pull the top off of your bullet seeder and actually remove the shims. And it just prevents the chance of screwing up your seating depth by using shims. And again, not a big deal, but so many times you leave yourself susceptible to having the wrong seating depth because the day before, when you're practicing, you were moving up and down your cedar stem. So that's, I think, something that can easily be avoided. And guys, any input there?
Oh, I think one of the biggest mistakes, even experienced shooters do, if you're using a couple of different bullets or your different barrels that's got totally different seating depths. If I'm going to shoot two guns at a two gun,
Mm-hmm.
I try to lay out the book, the bolt, the cedar, everything in one location. Because if I have to change that gun in the middle of an ag, or at the end of the light varmint, I'm going to heavy varmint. Maybe I'm going to shoot another gun. I want everything in one location before the match ever begins. I'm talking either the night before or that morning before the ag begins. Absolutely. Because in the heat of the moment, you've got to get a lunch, you've got to do this, you got a couple of tails tied up, you want to go open them up. You're just rushing around. I think it's very important. Have it organized that this is what I'm going to do in the afternoon. This is where I'm going to go. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not looking at this and looking at that. I know that that gun, there's the book. It's going to tell me everything I need.
Mm-hmm. And Jeff, do you have anything to add on that? Or
Yes. No, y'all bring up a great point. You need to have a book. You need to keep good notes. I mean, that is very important. Your cedar, your cedar stem, the cedar setting, their sizing die setting, and then the barrel, the powder, the whole everything, the bullets you're shooting. You used to years ago, I could kind of keep up with that, but as I've gotten a little older, it just doesn't work. I have to keep good notes.
yeah,
I mean, you
me
have to make yourself to keep good notes. So,
right. And the micrometer top again.
your micrometer
Just
cop,
real
so you
quick.
can record that. You
Yeah.
have to record that. I personally myself use a dial caliper and the old stem thing, but I record that setting. The micrometer top would be probably it'd be quicker. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
with the
you really need
micrometer top.
that is invaluable. Yes.
Yeah, with that micrometer top, you have to make sure, let alone writing down the number. Let's just say it's number 5 on my Mitutoyo thimble head. Let alone that, I find a place on that micrometer top, and I use the dial calipers to measure it. So I have a number 5, and then I have a digital a readout, and maybe it's 525 thou. I write down 5 and 525. And that way, because if I'm out 25 thou, I'll be on number 5, but
Mhm.
I've just added or took away 25 thou of seating depth. So I write those two numbers down, the number it's on, and somewhere on that top that changes as you change, I write that number down.
Gotcha. While we're talking about shims and things, in 27 years of bench rest, the probably the best accessory I've ever purchased. PMA Tool makes a micro die adjuster. They run like $129, and arguably it's probably the best thing I've ever purchased. I strongly recommend it. And what it does is that it has a numbered top that replaces shims that you can dial whatever amount of shoulder bump back that you're using instead of removing shims, and you can record the number on top of that's on top of the micro die adjuster in your logbook. So if you do have a couple different rifles and you have a little bit different headspace set up, you can record number 17 or number 15, whatever it might be working. And again, it keeps you from over bumping a shoulder to where you don't get into a positive headspace issue where you lose accuracy and you start to get double clicking because that brass is actually not being supported during firing. But it works very, very well. And it may be something that everybody takes a look at, because this is nice that instead of a thousandths, I have the ability to shave it by, half a thou or a third of a thousandths if I'm really trying to get that finite adjustment for my brass. The other thing that kind of worked out well is that for bullet makers out there that are squirting their own cores, this is my squirt die that I use, and I've started using it with a squirt die, and it is invaluable for squirting cores because, again, instead of using shims, which you only have a thousandths, as we all know, if you are squirting cores and you're trying to get to a 43 grain core, you can adjust this just minutely to get exactly that weight core that you might be squirting. So again, this is the best accessory I've purchased in 27 years. I recommend it very highly. And I think you guys might be using something similar, or Harley.
Every full length die I have has one on it. Every one of them.
Okay. All
Yes,
right.
I've got the dies I use. I've got the PMA adjuster on it. It works really great. Like you said, you can record it. I'm going to add something else here. As far while we're on sizing brass,
Mm-hmm.
you guys, one of the I call them a little gizzy gauge or something. It's actually just a little gauge. I think Harold's has them. PMA may have them. Your gunsmith that does your gun, it's just like the forward part, the shoulder part of your chamber, to where you can measure the brass. You'll record that down, and then you can, when you size, you know exactly how much you can get a fired length, and then you can get the size length. You know exactly how much you can move the shoulder back,
Right.
whether
This
it
is
be,
for
a
proper
thousandths or
shoulder
maybe
bump.
2 thousandths. And then all that in conjunction, you can use the PMA, the adjuster thing, to record all those settings. And it works out really great when you get used to it. It works great.
Good point. Good point. Moving on, just kind of talking about actually the ammunition that we're shooting and stuff. And you guys, we all see that a lot of times shooters may not be shooting well, or they're just not taking the time to load up enough ammunition. They're walking up to the line with maybe, 7 or 8 rounds. And as it would have it, we've seen it so many times, the world goes upside down, the condition reverses after you've got your first shot on the record target. Now you've got to shoot maybe a sighter or two to finish that group in reverse. And you've gone up there with only 8 rounds or 9. You're leaving yourself open to really a bad group because you don't have adequate amount of sighters. I would strongly advocate that for whatever load that you're loading to take up to shoot, take at least 9, maybe 10 rounds of that given load. And to that end, also, you want to also plan that, hey, you might be seeing more wind in that next relay. You're shooting 45 minutes later. Why not prepare an insurance load that may be a little bit hotter, where the wind's coming up after maybe lunchtime, or conversely, where the heat of the day has gotten such that you may need to pull back or go down in powder. You might want to take a cooler load up. So it's so important, and so many times that you just realize on the sighter, the bullets are not sticking. They're wandering, or you've got vertical. It is not going to get better when you go to record target. So if you identify that your pet load that you've shot maybe the first 3 matches in the morning, all of a sudden you go up to the 4th match, the wind is picked up, and now your 2 sighter shots in a given condition, instead of dotting, they've got paper between it. And if you have that hotter load as that insurance load to take up, now you can try that to get your tune back. And that is, I think, a critical thing that people really need to, start doing, that are going to help them find more success. It should their load that they've been shooting, that tune goes away. Anything you guys want to add there?
On the additional loads, uh, please understand this. When we get into these conversations over the years, all of us has had everything go wrong with us. I mean, we've all had loose scopes. We've always had loose knobs on our rests. Never laugh at the guy that has that. I'm shooting last year at a match, and as Jack had just said, you're using that sighter down below, and I just could not get the bullet to hit in the condition I thought. And I'm on the sider. I'm concentrating. Why won't this thing? And it's whatever was going on. And finally, I saw the condition. I got it. Okay, that's where I want it to hit. I just moved right over to the middle sider on the middle bull on the sider and just shot my group.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm standing there, nice looking group, maybe a
Right.
big one or something like that. And I'm just all proud of myself. And I look around, and Jack Sutton's a bench or so from. He said, Harley, he said, you don't have a group. Oh, I look down, no extra rounds. No extra round. I'm down to 30 seconds. That means I'd have to get somebody's rifle. And from then on, every time I go up there, I have 5 rounds in the morning. Wherever I start, I put 5 insurance rounds right up in my block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, just to clarify, Harley had shot his record group on the cider.
On the cider. Please don't laugh or smile when somebody says they
we're
do
all going to
something.
do that at some
We're
point.
all going to do
yeah,
something
it'll
like that.
happen.
Harley probably will do it more than us. Okay, let's just acknowledge
That's
that.
the plan.
Let's
That's the
get that
plan.
out in front of us and stuff. So, no, but true story. Everything is going to happen to you in the course of your shooting career, and if anything you can do to help prepare or prevent it, it's just good to be prudent with taking, steps that some of the successful shooters are doing there. And again, we talk about taking different loads up. The first match of the day. In IBS, you've got a warm-up match, so it's great to kind of get your load dialed in. The NBRSA, you've got 3 extra minutes for your group, so you have a total of 10 minutes for your first match. Use that time wisely. Bring up at least 2, maybe 3 different loads to find out where that tune is for that given day. A lot of times Friday night, you got your guns working. It's like, all right, let's have a Crown Royal. We're done. The gun's shooting really well, and you put it away. And then Saturday morning, the air is heavier. You don't maybe have the wind. It's benign condition versus the day before. And your sighters for that load that works so well at 6 o'clock Friday evening, you've got vertical now. And now you're like, oh my record group is not going to be good. So having different loads to do a little bit of work on your sighter to get the gun tuned, it is so important to use that time wisely. You've got 3 extra minutes in the NBRSA for a 10-minute match. In IBS, you've got the benefit of having a warm-up match. So make sure you do take up at least 2 loads to find that load that's going to work for that given day. So again, that's just something that just makes good sense to do. The other thing too is a lot of times shooters, and it's hard when you maybe have a match that's got two relays, but if you can kind of do your homework while you're setting flags, maybe that morning when you're getting your bench set up, pay close attention to what that dominant wind is going to be. The worst thing in the world, and it happens all the time to me, is that you'll put a shot down in a full value right to left 3 o'clock wind, and then you're going to sit there and wait for that condition to come back. And it's a day where it's left or right is a predominant condition. So that's just really lack of paying attention. You really need, when you get to setting up your bench, it's fun to talk with the guys next to you, but you got to keep an eye on what's going on in that range to try to identify what that dominant condition is, if it's right to left or right. And to kind of know, all right, I know the right to left, it's been there maybe about 6 or 7, or excuse me, maybe 4 or 5 minutes out of the 7. So I've got a better chance of that load or that wind returning back. So, so important there. Guys, anything that you want to share on dominant condition and what you do?
You bring up a good point, Jack. When you come to the bench and you start setting your equipment up, pay attention to the look down range, see what the conditions are doing. Like you said, you got time there, before the actual clock starts, that you can see. You might pick up a condition that's lasting 3 or 4 minutes or something. Just pay attention. Use that time real wisely. You can pick up a lot of good pointers.
Gotcha. All right. Now, here's something else that's kind of near and dear to our heart. When we're working with newer shooters, a lot of times they have maybe a propensity to where they start printing their group well above the mothball, or what some people might call the bullseye, to where it's up towards the black aiming square, where you're not going to be able to see your group form. And then when they're measuring your group, that's going to be really hard for that scorer to ascertain exactly just your group and not any part of that black square. So again, you want to keep your group printing no higher than the top of that mothball or the bullseye, if you will. It's so important there. And then the other thing too is take time when you first sit down in the morning, even though the gun might have been 0 the night before, changes in light condition with different darker, if the light's a little bit darker in the morning, light refraction, your group might be printing higher a lot of times with a little bit darker area. And then as the sun comes up and gets brighter, you're going to start seeing your group start to point of impact shift low. So it's important to get your group dialed in, the point of impact to where you want it to be. And you always want to have your point of impact agree with where the wind's pushing it. I'd never want to have my group printing into the conditions. Say if I'm shooting a 3 o'clock full value crosswind, I never want the group really to start printing over in the 9 ring over at like 4 o'clock or 3. I want it to flow with the condition to a point. I don't want the group to go way out where it's printing in addition to what the wind's pushing it, but I want it to have an honest placement of point of impact for that given amount of wind. And there's no set thing that's right or wrong as far as where you're holding. Some people want to hold right in the middle of the mothball or the bullseye. Some people want to bracket the mothball, or some want to hold, maybe it's 6 o'clock in the mothball. There's no right or wrong, but you do definitely want to make sure that if you can, have it print close to your point of impact, or even shoot out your point of impact. I mean, I know a lot of people are sensitive to that, but if you're worried about getting that finite hold, like a lot of new shooters are, you're wasting valuable condition that's right there that you could shoot your group and get it done instead of worrying about a tiny holding area. So again, I think just something real important to get your point of impact to be close to your aim point and have it go with the condition. And guys, anything that you want to share there of experience there that you've seen?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean that's really good advice. I personally myself, and like Jack said, there's no, I mean, it's not good, bad, or ugly, but I take a 3 o'clock on the 10 ring. That's my point of aim. and I can go, if the wind really bad, like a left to right, sometimes I will hold on the other side of the 10 ring instead of adjusting the scope. But I like to always I don't like that bullet to go, too far away from the 10 ring. I like
Mhm.
to kind of keep it, in there somewhere to where, for me personally, it's just easier to, hold off and stuff instead
Right.
of trying to hold off two or three wings here or two or three rings there.
Okay.
It just works out better for me like
So
that.
you're clicking into the condition. You're taking that condition out by dialing in some windage, correct, Jeff?
Yes, or
On a windy day. On a windy
on
day.
a windy day, or sometimes like if it's like I'm shooting at 3 o'clock on the 10 ring. If it's a real strong left to right, I'll go and shoot 9 o'clock on the 10 ring
Okay. So you're
instead of adjusting the scope because it may or may not come back. You just never know. I just like to I don't like the point of impact to get too far away from my point of aim.
Mhm. Another point, just moving forward, is you start with new brass, and as that brass is getting shot, it's going to get slightly work hardened. And with that, you're going to have to remove, if you're using shims or if you've got a PMA micro die adjuster, you're going to have to start adjusting your shoulder bump to where you have a consistent amount of shoulder bump. And this is where a lot of newer shooters might struggle. They assume that because that new brass, they were bumping that shoulder back, no problem. But once they fired that brass a number of times, especially with the hotter loads, now it's going to require them to bump that shoulder, make an adjustment with their micro die adjuster or shims or their lock ring, whatever they're using, in order to ensure that that bolt handle is closing the same and consistently. So it's very important for a newer shooter and for all of us to be very vigilant that you want to constantly take the fire control out after your gun's been clean, put your bolt in. IBS, you want to use a bolt flag, but you want to be certainly safe in removing the fire control. And take a case that's been sized in your full length die and look at how much that shoulder is needs to be bumped back. And I think that we're all in agreement. We want to see some resistance where it doesn't take more than a couple fingers to close that bolt. And so many times a newer shooter gets caught to where they haven't got that die set up right for that brass that's a little bit older. And now they're really crunching that bolt to try to close it. So, a couple things that harder bolt pressure means you're changing the load because that is applying more pressure to the outside of that case. And the other thing is that you could easily gall your lugs because you have not properly sized that case back. And guys, any comments on that?
No, I agree with you on that. With the brass, especially a new shooter, and you're shooting the brass about 4 or 5 times is usually when it starts to get some type of memory. And one of the things you want to do is start to learn and it should be in your notebook for that barrel. What is my headspace setting? And
Mm-hmm.
I know mine on my chambers with my tooling, it's 1.500 to 1.502.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And I
good
know
point.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is maybe you're experimenting a little bit, you're trying a little bit hotter loads, and your die doesn't match that brass.
Mm-hmm.
And now you keep bumping the shoulder back, going, well, my shoulders are right, but you're feeling the base of the case tighten up
Exactly.
on it.
Yep.
Now, when you feel the base of the case, you're thinking, well, I need more. I need to bump it more. I need to bump it more. And you're not measuring, you're just going by feel. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to measure it. That number, that's the first number I write down, other than just touch on my chamber. I write down what that number is. And as I said, with my reamer and the barrels that my gunsmiths do, my number's usually 1.500 to 1.502 because I see guys, they go, well, I'm not bumping the shoulder back, I'm not bumping it, but it's still tight, it's still tight. And then they start. And the next thing you know, they got it bumped back 7th thou and it's still tight. And
Yeah.
it's not because of the shoulder, it's because of the base of the case is not being sized properly. I
Right.
see
Yep.
it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, any comment there that you want to add?
No, I agree with y'all, you guys 100% on that. I will say that, like Harley was saying, recording, the actual number, so how many thousandths you're sizing the shoulder, pushing the shoulder back. But I found, and you guys will probably agree with me, say you've got brass that's, you may have 4, 5, 6 firings on it. This size is completely different from what new brass that you start out with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would, if you use that same setting on the old brass versus the new brass, you're going to find you're pushing the shoulder back probably 3 or 4 thousandths.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that all goes back to, have some kind of little gauge that you can check the headspace with.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that recording, keep good recordings, write down, the numbers on your sizing, where you need to be. And you can always measure that and say, okay, I'm moving the shoulder back, a thousandths, half, maybe 2 thousandths.
Mm-hmm.
And, keep good records. You'll always know, you can relate to that. You can always go back to that and find out where you're at if you might be having problems.
Right. And full length dies do plague a lot of newer shooters that they've maybe bought a full length die from someone, maybe that they were selling their estate or had product for sale, retools, and that full length die is not matching up to their Hendrickson or JGS, whatever type of reamer that they have. And most of the time, when you have incompatibility issues where you're getting double clicking after you fired your particular ammo, it's really because that base of that case is not being sized enough. It's not at the shoulder per se, but it's at the base. And you can bump back, like Harley said, that shoulder forever, 8, 10 thousandths or more, but it's not sizing that brass. Here again, and we've talked about it at nauseum, having that relationship with that gunsmith that chambered your barrel for his recommendation of what full length die will work with that individual reamer that he used to chamber your barrel. So again, a good matching full length die is absolutely imperative. Okay. Also, just real quick on brass, the importance of trimming. It took me a long time where I just didn't think, man, 3 thousandths or 4 thousandths difference in overall length of brass mattered. And it does. And if there is one thing that you really need to do is keep an eye on your brass trim length. Some reamers for 6 ppc have a real short trim length that they're at 1500. And it's very easy for new brass or as a brass gets fired, where that brass starts flowing and that case is growing, you're going to be in excess of that trim length. And for accuracy's sake, you can see it on an honest day at 200 yards, particularly the difference in trim brass versus brass that's got individual different lengths. And any feedback there, Jeff?
Yes, you want to know from your gunsmith, you want to know what the trim length is on whatever particular chamber reamer they used. Mm-hmm. And always look at that. You need to be constantly measuring that. Maybe when you come back from a line, or maybe every couple of rounds, matches or relays. I'm sorry, relays. You want to check that length. Make sure you've got the proper length there. It gotcha. Will cause a lot of problems.
Gotcha.
If not.
And no, I've as I said before, I'm not sure on any of our videos yet, but I trim after every firing,
okay,
or at least I check it. Mm-hmm. If it goes over 1,000 to 2,000, I trim every time after every firing.
Right.
And it's amazing, as Jack said earlier about the brass. Once you start to fire this stuff, it's not brand new brass right out of the box. And you said, well, I've only fired, all of these brass have been fired 3 times. Well, some of them might have been fired with 29.4, and other ones might have been fired with 30.4. They're not going to grow the same.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Good, excellent.
So I just check my brass after every firing. If need be, it's trimmed after every firing during my process.
Gotcha. Good point. Excellent point. Harley, did you have other points that you wanted to share?
Yes, I do. And these are just some of the things that I find for mostly I see it in new shooters, but some of them relate back to guys that have been at it for a while. When they're practicing and you're out there practicing, whether you get there a couple days before a nationals or you go to your home range and you got a new barrel, and they shoot a small group
Mm-hmm.
and they go, "Well, my gun is tuned."
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, we're all looking for the small groups, yes, but what you need to do is two things with that small group. Number one, go back up in 15, 20 minutes after you just shot that small group and verify it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're to shoot aggregates, we have to have a window. So what I need to do with that small group load, whatever that seating depth was, whatever that powder charge was, at that time of day, I want to go up and I want to go a little bit shorter on the bullet. I want to go a little bit longer on the bullet. I want to go a little bit more on the powder and a little bit less. I want to see if I have a window there, or is this thing's only going to shoot 30.1 seven thousandths in the
Right.
rifling, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's difficult for new shooters to understand that, and I was there. I know I've been down that road. But the day I find a rifle barrel that gives me a window where I got a couple of thou on either side, I got a couple of tenths up and down. Now I got a little bit of comfort. Cause why? How about my load is just not quite right? I'm not going to go out there and shoot a 420.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm going to go out
And
there, it's going to be on the near what I need.
right. And again, you hit on a major point that you may find a seating depth that for that one time, the barrel's clean. You have no carbon fouling in it, and it's
Yes,
going to burn a hole. And you're ready to get into the Crown Royal, go to dinner. And the hardest thing in the world is to go back and duplicate it. And this is to your
exactly.
point of selecting a seating depth that 2000s either way, that you want to see a window that it's not going to hurt you, that if your seating depth is a little bit off, that you're not going to have that mid three group at 100 yards or maybe a 5 or 7 at 200. You want a seating depth range that gives you, or a window that does have a comfort zone, if you will, or a buffer for that seating depth. And that is
Exactly.
takes a lot of time, a lot of people to understand that you're looking for that window, not that rogue seating depth that, well, yesterday morning when I was practicing, oh my gosh, it just burned one hole. And when you try to repeat it, that's the acid test. It has to it has to sustain itself throughout those 5 groups and things. And another point to, if I may interject, guys, is that when you are testing loads and you see it pick up or reverse, as you become more skilled, it's so easy that you may want to hold off and try to work with that condition instead of picking through that condition to test the load. You're not testing your holding skills. When you're really testing the load, you want to test the load and not your skill. So by waiting till that condition repeats itself and not holding off to finish that group, it's so important that you're not practicing, you're actually testing those loads and not holding off. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Because I believe a lot of guys, when it goes to, like, as I said, they shoot a small group and they stop, they've got to learn how to do a ladder test
Mm-hmm.
on a target. When you start a new barrel, you should have one target that's for that barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever way you want to set up your ladder, where you're going left to right with your seating depth, and you're going up and down with your powder, and keep it with that barrel. That's a record that you're not, as Jeff said, you got to take notes. You're not going to remember this stuff in 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
especially next year when you come
We're
back.
going to remember it next week.
Right.
Right.
So you
And
got to keep notes.
I see that. Yeah, you need that. You need that. Learn how to do a ladder test. Tony's book is fantastic at that. It teaches you how to start with your ladder test and start going. Uh,
And
After this,
let's
when you
quantify ladder tests for people that might not be familiar
okay,
with
go
it.
right ahead.
Yeah,
Go.
you're going to maybe try 4 different powder charges, and then
At
you're going to
least
mix
three.
in
At least three.
at least 3, and you're going to try different seating depths to try to see what seating depth with what powder is going to give you the biggest window. And we'll
Yes.
get into that into maybe a future video that we'll do.
Right, because all of us, I guarantee you, I'll say this: we've started brand new barrels, and it seems like every time you go to one powder charge, no matter what the seating depth is, it'll shoot that powder charge.
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful when that happens. Just
Right.
as I said, you're looking for a window here. One of the other problems new shooters get into, and even experienced shooters, they spend too much time going to the range or before the match tuning the rifle. You can't do that. You've got to practice
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to tune on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got, if one of these days someone's going to come out with a formula that says, oh, it's 80 degrees outside, 45% humidity, your gun needs to shoot 30.1, and that's what it's going to shoot.
Right.
Well, until that happens, you have to learn how. All right, I get that feeling. I'm going to go out with 30.1, also going to go with 30.0 or 29.8 and with 30.3. But I've got to practice. So practice goes back to what Jack was saying. When you start holding off and getting confidence and building that confidence to hold off, to hold into a let up is something I struggle with. It's easy to hold with a pickup,
Mm-hmm.
but to hold into a let up when I know the bullet's going to try to go left, but I'm moving to the left
Yeah.
because it's letting up. So you've got to practice.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get your gun tuned, load up 10 rounds
Mm-hmm.
and go out and shoot those 10 rounds in one group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And practice when it lets up, practice when it picks up, practice when it reverses.
Mm-hmm.
And as Jack just said with the tuning, don't hold when you're tuning, but you're going to be holding
Mm-hmm.
because now, and I know I have a tuned rifle. I just tuned it.
Right.
And I that was only 20 minutes ago. My tune is there. So learn how to practice.
Right.
Do not tune.
Mm-hmm.
Tuning a tune on the fly.
Right. Just a couple maybe small things that we see, like the new shooter that is brushing and it's a race, and they're trying to see how quickly they can wear their crown out by that cleaning rod flexing because it's going so fast in and out of the barrel. Guys, when you're cleaning that barrel, you have to be very careful of that crown. When you're pushing or pulling that uh, bronze brush back through, you want to make sure you're not having that cleaning rod bend because it's going out so fast. Let it square up to the face of that barrel and then pull it through. Don't be like a lot of people trying to get your cleaning done as quickly as you can, and that rod is going in and out of that crown, out of that muzzle so fast. You're flexing that cleaning rod, and you're definitely wearing that crown. Slow down when you're cleaning that rifle. It's so very important there. And if you don't have a bore scope, find a friend that does have one. Check your cleaning methods to see if you are getting, the copper is a real easy thing to get out with most of our solvents today, but the carbon, that takes a little bit more. Even the best solvents today don't get out carbon. Carbon usually is going to require, all the time in my experience, some type of ioso paste, JB, whatever it might be, to where you're going to cut through that carbon. And guys, any information you want to share on cleaning?
Yes, the crown, and let's just say this pen is a end of your cleaning rod. And now we're going to put a brush on the end, or we're going to put a jag on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that that jag is not bigger than the cleaning rod.
Great
And
point.
that happens a lot. So now when, as Jack said, when you start pulling it back through the board, that jag or that brush is hitting that crown every single
Yep.
time. The jag or the brush has to be smaller than the end of the cleaning rod.
Right.
Very
Great
important.
point. Great point.
Very important.
Jeff, anything you want to share about cleaning that's worked well for you, or tips
Just for quick, I mean, I think we could do a whole nother like video thing
Oh,
on
we will.
cleaning,
Yeah, we'll
but
clean
for just
Harley's
just
rifle.
touching bases right here for the new shooters, make sure you've got a good fitting bore guide.
Mm-hmm.
And like Harley said, use a good, jag, a good sized jag on your rod. Make sure that you're using a known good bore cleaner. Not all, I mean, don't try to reinvent the wheel, come out with your own stuff or something Billy Joe Bob down here down the road at the next range said is good. Use a known good bore cleaner. And I mean, there's several out there. Just, you just need to stay with the basic stuff.
Right, right. Well, good.
Because
Got,
one of my friends, he's a Hall of Fame Benchrest member, wanted to use oven cleaner and bake the barrel to get the carbon off. We won't say who that was, will we, Jack?
I was young and I needed the money, so I won't comment on that. Hey, we've all tried everything, So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. No, and friends of ours have made different concoctions and stuff. Tim Humphreys will just have you laughing at some of the solvents he's come up with, possum juice, and I mean it's just hilarious. And the stuff works. Tim is a great shooter, so it's so funny to see some of the different solvents, and use plenty of solvent. Some guys will try to just like Harley will be frugal and he'll drip maybe 2 or 3 drops of whatever that solvent is, like black velvet something, and try to clean the barrel. But we're going to do a segment, I think, at the Nationals, MBRSA Nationals coming up, and we're going to watch Harley clean his barrel. And boy, are we going to critique that, aren't we, Jeff? So,
Oh yes. Oh yes.
so that'll be
Most
a future
definitely.
video. Harley, did you have anything else that you wanted to
Yeah, I've got
cover?
a couple of things, and I don't want to upset anybody with this, but new shooters especially, when you're getting into this, somebody got you involved in it, and you were looking for something, and somebody got you involved with it. But in our sport, uh, you need to go to the matches. That's the number one thing, guys. I just can't stress enough. You need to go to the matches, but when you're there, uh, uh, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, as Jeff mentioned. You don't have to do that. All you have to
With
do is
equipment
listen
selections.
with equipment stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a new Gizzy here. That's a new Gizzy there. Oh, that'll make me shoot better. Now, uh, be frugal with that, but ask questions and get comments from the competitors, and eventually you'll be allowed to make your own decision. Not allowed, but eventually you'll come up with good decision making. But the one thing I really stress in our sport, uh, a lot of guys come in and they go, well, I need a gunsmith. Honestly, you don't need a gunsmith. There's very few gunsmiths in our sport that really make it happen. Dave Bruno is a gunsmith, a very good friend we lost a few years ago was Sid Goodling. He was a gunsmith. Most of our guys are rifle smiths. And because most of the tool and die makers and gunsmiths, they don't understand ignition. They don't understand the bolt and the timing. They're very good at reading a mic and getting it within 10 thousandths or 50 millionths or this or that. But a riflesmith understands the tune of a rifle, number one, and he understands ignition. So
Right.
eventually, as you get into this, you'll find a riflesmith. And just naming a few, there's Wayne Campbell, there's Jeff Pinehart, and other guys like that that really understand our game. They're competitors, and they know what we're doing. That I cannot stress that high enough. That's the guy you need in your corner.
Yeah.
That's the guy right
Yeah.
there. He
Yeah, a
needs to,
successful shooter that is doing gunsmithing, rifle smithing, that
yes,
understands ignition and what it takes to win, to
what
get
it
a
takes to
rifle to
win.
work. Yeah,
Yes.
that's so important. And also to your point, Harley, having that mentor, finding someone who is successful. Um, you know, there's so many resources in the MBRSA. We have, just a regional mentorship. IBS, you and Bob White and Jeff Pinehart annually every April. You do a fantastic job with your schools that you have. But find a mentor that is successful in the game. Everybody in our game is willing to help nurture and get you started and help you build your skill set as you get into it. we all want to see our sport grow, and that's only going to happen if people become ambassadors and help coach other people up that are starting, or even the newer or older shooter. Maybe they're struggling with, they got into, some bad components, whatever it might be. You maybe need another set of eyes to say, wow, this is not something you should be doing. Of what happened. And, it's usually a new product that's introduced into your program that a lot of times you don't think, well, it couldn't possibly be this, whatever it might be. And sure enough, that was the item that's causing your struggles and stuff. So it's great to have another set of eyes with
Yeah,
a proven
a
mentor.
mentor is a must, a
Yeah.
must, a must.
Yep. Just Jeff, anything that you want to add?
No, I was going to bring that up. You guys have covered it really well. Yes, a mentor is a mentor is it's just invaluable. I mean, you can't stress enough how valuable a good mentor is. That does shoot, because a new shooter, they're going to have 1,000 questions. They're going to have hundreds of questions to ask. And you can run this by your mentor, and yes, no, good, I don't think it's a good idea, it's a great idea, and he will help you along.
Right.
But no, y'all covered that real well.
I'm going to wrap up with just a couple of points. Looking at newer shooters, a lot of times the newer shooters have a propensity, a tendency that they're afraid to put powder in the case. They're going off of someone else's recommendation who may not shoot competitively. And a lot of times they're just not putting enough powder in that case to stabilize that bullet, particularly when that wind comes up. That's where they really struggle because their lighter loads just aren't working. My advice, and it's so important, is to be agnostic of what load works. Take that glass ceiling off of, hey, 30.9, that could be in the realm of what it takes when that condition is maybe windy. It could be dry out, which requires more powder. Or conversely, you may be in a situation where the conditions are damp, there's not hardly any wind. You may have to drop your powder way down to a lower level than what you're used to. So you need to really be flexible of just identifying what that powder charge needs to be for that different condition. And again, when it's more windy out, the load that did not work for 2 or 3 days before maybe the Nationals in benign conditions. And we've seen this, Harley and Jeff, and I have practiced so many Nationals. And when the match
Yes.
starts, that wind comes up, and that hotter load that did not work for 3 days while we practiced, all of a sudden when that wind comes up, my gosh, now all of a sudden it's taking powder. So you really have to be flexible and take away the glass ceiling of what I feel is too hot and won't work. And a lot of times the load that you feel might be too hot is that right load for that given day's environment of wind or humidity, whatever it might be, temperature. So again, just don't limit yourself to a different load. Try the different loads. Take up loads during the match, or preferably before that. During your first match of the day where you have extra time. And also, just a couple things. Everybody wants to win, but it's so important that take a little bit of time. People are trying to get home, driving for several hours. Go to the awards ceremony, cheer on the people that are winning, because sooner or later it's going to be you up there that's winning. And if everybody leaves that did not win, you're not going to have any type of crowd to cheer you on. So it's important to be a really good sportsman on that. Also, you also have a target crew that works so hard in hot conditions, rainy weather. Tip the target crew. It doesn't take much money, $20, whatever it might be, to make sure that target crew is appreciated. And, ask the match director if there's something that you could do to help him or her. Again, if we all come together, it's really a better sport for everybody to enjoy. Any closing remarks, Jeff?
Yeah, I would like to say, especially for the new shooters or all shooters, as far as that goes, when you're practicing or when you're fireforming, anything, try to shoot over the wind flags that you're going to shoot at a match. I know it may not always be right, but try to shoot over wind flags. You don't realize how important that is. I mean, you need to get
It's a must.
get in the frame of mind, the flags, and even if you're fire forming, you can still learn something on the wind flags.
Mhm. Harley, any comments to close?
No, just when it comes down to practicing, and especially when you're practicing at your home range where it's really laid back and probably you're the only quote unquote Benchrest shooter there, try to act like it's a match. Have all your reloading equipment, become familiarize yourself with the cleaning cradle, with your cleaning solvents, with your full length die, taking a bolt apart. Just generalize yourself with the information that you're going to use. So when you go to a match, you know how to strip a bolt down, or you know how to clean your sizing die. It's amazing at times. I'll get lax and I won't clean my sizing. All of a sudden it's sticky and everything. I get out the lighter fluid, I get out Q-tips, and all of a sudden everything works better. Just familiarize yourself with the tools that you're going to use when you get a chance to practice. Use that time wisely.
Mm-hmm.
That
Well,
should be
guys,
it.
yeah, guys, I think we've had a great segment. We appreciate your guys' time and your input from all your experience, your winning experience. Um, as always, folks, subscribe, like our video, share it with friends. We're going to try to come up with more content each week and post it. And, we read your comments. Let us know what you guys want us to cover. Are there certain technical things that you'd like to hear us expound on? Or different skill sets that we could help you with. Yeah, we love the comments and we appreciate you tuning in tonight.
Yes,
And
thank you.
we'll be our next video will be at the NBRSA Nationals coming up in St. Louis. So, guys, thanks again for your time.
Thank you all, and good shooting.